I was going into my sophomore year at Stanford, except this season I was the starting running back, and I quickly started to understand where Allen Iverson was coming from, because practice was worthless to me. And unfortunately, we started the season off against an SEC opponent in South Carolina. No matter how much I tried to get loose, they just weren't having it. Them boys were built different. I could tell it was going to be a long day on the ground after I got stopped on this 3rd and 1. But if there was anything I had going for me, it was my ability to get open in the passing game. And it was something I took great pride in and something I was trying to build off of from last season's success. And I knew if I eventually wanted to get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, I'd have to be an elite dual threat running back. And then late in the 4th quarter, down by 11, I complete this catch to set us up in better scoring position. The very next play I'd score, but it was too little too late, and South Carolina completed the upset as they held me to less than a yard per carry, even though I led the team in receiving. We were taking on a very talented Washington team, and I started contemplating if I needed to hit the weight room a little more, because I was getting rocked and thrown around like a rag doll. And to make matters worse, our quarterback would throw it to the other team, which led to another touchdown, as we were now down by 14. I finally started getting involved in the offense, but for some reason on 4th and 11, our coach called the dumbest play imaginable, and we leave the half with 0 points. And then I started to get loose out there. I was really starting to look like Christian McCaffery the way I was making dudes fall, as I single-handedly brought us down into scoring position. And I was starting to get a little bit annoyed, because even though I'm the one that brought us all the way down there, coach would call a play-action pass and throw it in. We would score again with just under 40 seconds, but obviously with no timeouts left, there just wasn't enough time. We would fall to Washington as I led my team in receiving for the 2nd week in a row. After starting 0-2, I had no idea how we were still ranked in the top 25. And even though this Washington State team wasn't as talented as us, they were doing a pretty good job on defense in terms of bottling me up. But I was just concerned about falling forward all game and putting our team in good positions to score. So it sucked when our quarterback took a sack on 3rd down in the red zone, so we had to settle for 3. But our defense was doing their thing, so we had another opportunity just before the half to go and get some points on the board. We were late into the 4th quarter, and this catch down the seam was huge for us in trying to ice this game. And just a few plays later, I had the biggest play of the game to help end it. I was just relieved we got our first win of the season, even though my stat line wasn't looking too pretty. But a win is a win is a win is a win. I got injured on the first series of the game against Utah, and I wouldn't see the field again until 2 minutes left to go before the half. But on my first play back from injury, I would catch this screen pass, let my blocks develop downfield, and start taking it all the way to the crib. No one was going to be able to catch me, as this was the most explosive play of the season for me. And I continued to keep putting the team on my back and get us into scoring position. But I don't know, I feel like coach wasn't really rocking with me, because once I got us down to the 2-yard line, he let the other back take it in. It was definitely a little bit disrespectful, but at least we were winning the game, and our defense came up big on this 4th and 8 to help seal it. It was a nice win, but we were getting ready to take on the number 5 team in the country. I came into this game against Oregon State ready to do whatever it took to win. This was definitely a defensive battle, but our offense was able to do just enough to stay step for step with Oregon State. And if there's 3 things in this life that's guaranteed, it's death, taxes, and me catching footballs. And they must have had a blown assignment on this play, because no one was guarding me, and I hit the dead leg on this fool and took it all the way down inside the 10-yard line. But our quarterback must have been drunk from partying too much the last night, because this fool fumbled on the very next play, and we'd go into the 4th quarter tied at 7. And after pulling my hamstring, I'd go ahead and watch our offense from the sideline as we took the lead, but it wouldn't last for long as Oregon State would answer immediately. I told coach I had to be out there for the last play of the game, but I'm telling you, our QB had to be under the influence, because why the hell did he throw it out of bounds? Like, damn. We were taking on Arizona State, and I know my quarterback was wishing this game was an away game so he could party there with his drunk ass. And after barely getting anything going in the first, this run to end the quarter would put our team at midfield, which would go ahead and set up this long touchdown pass to Mike Wilson, as we would finally take the lead, and on the next drive I would help extend that lead even more. And it started to feel like we were just piling up on Arizona State, till coach drew up this halfback pass, and I was embarrassed because I would throw an interception. But I wouldn't feel too bad for too long, because the next time I touched the ball, I'd truck this guy and then take it 89 yards for the longest run of my career, as no one would catch me. And even though I didn't catch a single pass, I had the best game of my career. Notre Dame was one of our biggest rivals, and when we played them last season, that was my first start as a Cardinal. And if you remember, I went off against the Leprechauns, and this time was no different. I was catching passes, running all over them, and channeling my inner Cody Paul. But after catching this pass in the flat and making this guy miss, I get popped, and I was out for the rest of the first quarter, all the way until just a couple minutes left in the second. But I started to see a trend, because every time I came back from injury, I had an explosive play, and I was almost hoping to get injured now. And it was clear my team really needed me because I got hurt when we were up 7-0, and my touchdown tied it back up, and this key block would help keep this game tied going into the fourth. After I ran the wrong route on this play and got in the way of the pass on third down, I was not looking forward to film session with coach later. Thankfully, we would answer though, and our defense would hold them on fourth down. And a couple plays later, when I was this wide open, I couldn't contain myself as I started jumping for joy, but we couldn't celebrate for long because we had to prepare for number 4 Oregon. This was a season-defining game against the number 4 team in the country, and it was looking like it was going to be a back-and-forth battle all game, because for every negative play I had a positive one, and for every positive play, I had a negative one. But I finally be able to put our team on the board in the first quarter with this screen pass on 3rd and goal, and then I started making some of these Oregon defenders look like ugly little ducklings. I made this dude hug the air, and that dude bust his ass, and even though I got hurt on that play, our offense kept clicking as our quarterback would throw it in and then he would run it in the next possession. But I'm trying to tell y'all, there's really something to this injury thing, because every single time I got hurt, I would come back and have an explosive play. And even though number 12 had an angle on me, I was just too fast. And the defense continued doing their thing as they got this stop on 4th down. And the next drive, I put this game out of reach with this 20-yard touchdown run, as we would complete the biggest upset of the season against number 4 Oregon. We were getting ready for UCLA, and even though we had 3 losses, we were somehow 8th in the college football playoff rankings, which led me to believe that if we ran the table and got a conference championship under our belt, we could make it into the college football playoffs. And this game against UCLA will be a great confidence builder for our team, as I put the team on my back and led us in receiving again. And since I was going crazy and we were already in Los Angeles, I was thinking I should hit up some Instagram models for real, because with a couple more games like this, I was going to be a household name. This game couldn't have started any worse than this. I ran a swing route and I wasn't expecting the ball, as the QB technically threw it behind him for a lateral and USC would recover. But thankfully we held him to no points, and after I caught this pass in the middle of the field, we would get a little bit closer in the scoring position, but ultimately we would have to settle for a field goal, as we took an early 3-0 lead against USC to end the first. And even though I extended our lead to 10, by the time the fourth quarter came around, USC would score 23 unanswered, and suddenly we were trying to find our way down the field to try and get back in this one. And I was on the sideline again because I just kept getting hurt, and I just can't explain it. My ass needed to be in the weight room next offseason, and I don't think this pass was meant for me, but I snatched it anyways, and we'd be able to score, but USC would answer immediately. I was wondering why our quarterback threw this ball on the line, but I'm sure he was also wondering why the hell I kept getting hurt so much, so I couldn't even be mad for real. We were playing for the Axe in a monsoon against Cal, and after almost ripping my arm out of my socket trying to call for this ball, I'd make it pay off as I made a couple dudes miss. And the very next play, the coaches went back to me as I would spring this pitch and almost take it the distance, but I just couldn't get enough blocks and would bring it inside the 20. But we would settle for a field goal, unfortunately, and I was sick of settling for field goals, so the next time I got the ball in my hands, I'd make sure I bring it all the way. Cal would kick this field goal just before the fourth quarter to make it 17-10, but the defense was holding it down in the fourth quarter, and they would get this interception, which would lead directly to this touchdown catch, which would put me just over 1,000 points and level me up in the next tier of coach's trust as veteran starter. And I was just a few good games away from being named a captain. I went into this game against Army on a mission, and even though I got the utmost respect for our military, I had to make sure that I would violate Army because I was trying to get drafted, and I wasn't talking about into a war. These dudes might see me on Call of Duty, but they not about to see me on the football field, because after I made this catch in the open field, I made these 3 dudes slide cancel, and it was just getting worse and worse for them as I was having the best game of my career. And on this run, you would have thought that there was a sniper in the building the way these two fell. I mean, realistically, there probably are a couple of snipers on their sideline. And after going up 28 at the half, them boys from West Point were going to have 0 chance of mounting a comeback in this one. And even though I wouldn't win the Heisman my sophomore season, I was glad to get some recognition from the conference as I made first team all Pac-12 as we were getting ready for our bowl game. It was a little disappointing that we were playing the exact same bowl game as we did last season, but I guess we didn't really deserve anything more. We beat Boise State last year in this stadium, and this time we were taking on Utah State, and things weren't looking so good because after I caught this screen pass, I'd get popped, fumble it, and they would recover, which would lead to a field goal and them going up by 10. I was pissed off with myself, so instead of trying to make dudes miss, I just put my head down, and we'd eventually score right before the half. And you'll never guess what happens next, because after getting this fake handoff, I would actually get hurt again. Like, you can't make it up. I came back into the game down 3 with just over 2 minutes left, and this third down conversion was huge. And I did everything that I could, but unfortunately, I'd be watching from the sideline as our quarterback took this sack, and then on 4th down, we get stopped just before the sticks. And I couldn't help but think that this loss was on me. That fumble in the red zone area was crucial, and then me getting injured and missing time put our team in a bad spot. I'd finished the season with 1350 on the ground and almost 1,000 receiving yards with 19 total touchdowns. And I can't wait until my junior year. I feel like I have every tool in the belt to win the Heisman.